Dealer lots may be filling up, ladies and gentlemen, but their bank accounts are getting lower. And you know what causes that? It's called floor plan. The cost of financing their inventory means that their cash flow ain't flowing like it used to.
All right, let's break this down, Pops. We've got a dealership in Illinois, a Ford dealer with nearly 1,600 new vehicles on their lot. That's a lot across all their various points. That being said, Dad, they are paying a ton of money as that inventory sits. So
Yes.
what we've got here is a simple floor plan calculator, folks. Let's imagine, just for a moment, of the $1,595, what do you want to say the average cost to the dealers are for those, Dad? Again, it's Ford dealers, so 1,600 new Fords. What do you think? Is it a $40,000 average cost, $50,000 average cost?
We know that they're heavy in F-150s. So let's say the average cost is $55,000 or $60,000.
All right, we'll do $55,000. That means this dealership has nearly $90 million in inventory. And like you just said, Dad, floor plan, that is the key word and the key thing for everyone to understand. That is the cost of carrying that inventory. Most dealers do not pay cash for that $90 million, those $90 million in cars and trucks.
Absolutely not. Now, let's say, because they're a big time volume dealer for Ford, that Ford Motor Credit cuts them a deal. And so that maybe their floor plan interest rate is, say, 6.5%, where, the smaller dealers might be 7.5%, even 8%.
Like, y'all should understand, as interest rates go up, dealer floor plan interest rates go up. 6.5% would be an incredible interest rate to finance right now because the Fed funds rate is as high as it is. That means, Dad, if this dealer is carrying that inventory for a significant period of time, they have millions of dollars in interest that is accruing on all of that inventory. Floor plan cost was and can be a profit center for dealers. Let's stick with the Ford theme here for just a second. Dad, we have a Ford invoice, and you can see it actually has a line item on the invoice called FPA. Can you explain what FPA is for all of our friends at home?
That's called floor plan assistance, and that's the amount on this particular vehicle, $490, that Ford was contributing to that dealer to have that vehicle in inventory, utilizing the thought that it's going to sit there for a while and they're going to have to pay interest on it. And so Ford was going to cover part of that inventory. Now, 3 years ago, when nobody had anything in stock, that $490 became a profit item because the dealer wasn't really paying any floor plan interest on it because there wasn't anything sitting there. Today, that $490 is a drop in the bucket for what it would cost to have a vehicle sit for 90 days, 120 days, 160 days.
That's why you'll see, folks, a lot of dealers discount their inventory after a 60, 90, 120-day period because a lot of these floor plan assistants, they will only cover up to about 60 days, some maybe a little bit longer than that. So you've got a little bit of money coming from the manufacturer to help offset the cost of carrying that inventory. And in the good times, like you were just mentioning, good times for dealers, this was a huge profit center to the tune of tens of millions of dollars for the big public dealer groups. Now, Dad, as we head into 2024, we expect to see more headlines like this. Penske Auto Group's floor plan interest jumps 242% year over year. Floor plan and cash flow tied to it because, well, you're cutting a big check at the beginning of every month for all those cars that are sitting there. That is now a material cost center for dealers that will influence the industry and how we operate this year. You cannot hold on to cars in perpetuity like you were doing 18 months ago. You have to move them more quickly or else you're just going to be racking up your interest expense.
Yes. What was a profit center 3 years ago is now an expense, as it always had been prior to that. The cost of inventory has gone up because the manufacturers are building more of the higher priced, higher profit margin vehicles, and the cost to finance it has gone up. Interest rates have gone up from like 2.5% upwards of 8, 9, 10% and more, so that suddenly you're financing greater amount of inventory at a much higher interest rate. The cost associated with that is staggering.
So if you're running a dealership right now, Dad, what is the rationale? And as customers, how should we approach this? Is it our standard advice? Like, hey, go look for the oldest vehicle on the dealer's lot. Ask them for the one that's been sitting there the longest. That's the one they've accrued the most expense on. But like as an operator, what are you thinking in this type of environment? And as customers, how should we be approaching it?
If you're a dealer principal, you are concentrating daily on what the age of your inventory is. You are pulling aged inventory reports and taking a look at what's sitting, how long it's been sitting, why it's sitting, what your new car manager is doing about that, what type of incentives he's given to the sales staff to move those vehicles along, because the cost of that adds up exponentially as your inventory grows. So, as an operator, you are trained to be looking at that because you want to cut that expense, not increase that expense. And as a customer, you can utilize that to your benefit by saying, "Hey, according to ads, I see this vehicle's been sitting on your lot for X number of days. There's a cost associated with that. Perhaps it's time to take a slightly shorter deal in order to move that vehicle along rather than just continue to pay the interest to have that vehicle sit here."
New and used cars, if I'm not mistaken, are both impacted by floor plan, right? Like most car dealers also purchase their used cars on this line of credit on through some sort of financial instrument, not paying cash. Is that correct?
Typically, a lot of used cars, most dealers finance their new and used car inventory. And as we said, as interest rates go up, the cost of financing that inventory goes up dramatically.
So what was once a meaningful profit center for car dealers is now becoming a material cost center. That's good news for customers and a really, really, really stark contrast from how this industry operated even 18, 24 months ago. I also think that it means a lot of car dealers that were operating in times of plenty will be looking for, I don't know, ways to get money in their pockets sooner because cash flow is going to become very tight when you start every month with a $20, $30, $40, $50,000 check that needs to be written before you even open your doors. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some dealers going out of business or some consolidation because the bank's going to come knocking saying, "Hey, you've got 100 cars, it's worth, $10 million. Where's our 6% of that, 8%, 10% of that?" That's a big check.
Yeah, no, it's a large check that the dealer has to write. It impacts everything they do. It is a cash intensive business, and this takes away some of the cash that they need for things like payroll, dealer trades, every advertising. So this is a huge expense. And the sharp operators, like I said, are keeping an eye on how long the inventory is sitting and making adjustments in their pricing and their commission structures to encourage the salespeople to move the older units first.
All right, Dad, you can sell your car on CarEdge. What's the deal?
The deal is you just plug in your VIN number and we'll get you offers from local dealers in minutes.
Seconds. CarEdge.com/sell.
Okay.